Hello, my soul friends. I believe that the very purpose for which I started a YouTube channel might be met by this video. Yes, let me tell you what that means. The topic here today is Mother's Day for those outside of the circle of celebration, including motherless daughters, unmothered daughters, those who've experienced the mother wound, those women who never had children, and for those women who lost children, including through miscarriage. Every Mother's Day as it approaches, I can feel my heart getting heavier. And I've done a lot of work with this, and I was a grief counselor, but I am a motherless daughter. And my heart always goes out to women on Mother's Day. Of course, as women, we celebrate our sisters who are mothers and honor them. It's a beautiful day of honoring and celebration. But I want to talk to those of us who feel displaced by this beautiful holiday, who might feel that wound of not fitting in, not belonging, even more extremely. So I want to tell you a little bit about my mother wound or my loss. I talk about it a lot on these videos, and here's why. I hope that in my sharing my story and my healing of my story and my healing of my journey, that I inspire and support someone who might be stuck in a place of that wound, or maybe never quite heard it the way that I'm saying it, and it resonates, and that vital place of feeling like you're not alone. That's why I'm doing these videos, and that's why I'm doing this one. This feels so sacred to me and so purposeful. For years, I've wanted to gather women to do something, just a gathering on Mother's Day every year. I think about it, and then I live in a relatively small community, and I don't know a lot of other women who've experienced similar losses. And here we are in this opportunity where we're now sheltering in space, or I like to say sheltering in soul. And we're using this thing called Zoom, where we can outreach and connect with others. And it dawned on me that I can zoom out and connect with other women who, like me, can feel their body starting to feel apprehensive, feeling that. For me, it's a lot more subtle now. Let me tell you, I've healed this quite a bit, and that's why I want to share with you today. But I can still feel the little bit of apprehension and the dread of the day, and that's going to be here in a few days. So I thought I really wanted to do, number one, I'm going to do a video, and number two, I'm going to offer a Zoom gathering for any woman who is dreading Mother's Day coming, who has either lost their mother, is not a mother, has lost a child, anything that opens up the wound of loss. We may have done much work, and like I said, my mother died when I was 17, and I've done a lot of work with this. And the thing about grief, though, as you know, for those of you who have lost anyone, and especially your mothers, in particular your mother, that wound may heal, but it can get reopened, especially when a holiday like this happens, or any holiday for that matter. So they can reopen, and how are we going to be present with ourselves? Well, it's good to be prepared to sort of feel into the apprehension, feel into what you're feeling. Ask yourself, what will this day be like for me, and how can I support myself? We're going to talk more about that in just a moment. But so my mom died when I was 17, but I often say she died spiritually, or she left her body, even though she was physically here, when I was 9, because my dad died when I was 9, and so she just sort of checked out. So I personally related to motherless daughter and unmothered daughter. Now, the term motherless daughter comes from a wonderful book called Motherless Daughters by an author, Hope Edelman, who coined that term. And I didn't find that book until I was in my 40s. And when I was reading it, I was weeping and wishing someone had handed me that book when I was 17. It was the first time I heard my story. It was the first time I felt seen and understood. Oftentimes when you have loss like this or any kind of grief, one of those things about grief that it's one of my missions to shift this, that people don't let others speak about their loss or their grief. There's this sort of, this American way almost. I wonder if it's unique to Americans, but I see it a lot, that positive psychology. We can't let the person just feel and be where they are. We've got to fix it. We've got to cliche it. And for sensitive beings, you can often feel when you're trying to be with your grief or say something about your mother or what you're feeling, you can feel almost the energy of, don't talk about that. And so we don't talk about that. And then if we don't talk about it, where does it go? And if we don't talk about it, we're not present to it, it stays alive in our bodies, okay? This is such a big topic, and I'm going to try to just cover as much as I can. Mostly my intention here is my heart wanted to reach out to your heart and say, you're not alone. I see you. I feel you. I get it. I know this journey. I know the journey of losing a mother and not being mothered. I know the journey of not having children of my own. It was a longing of my whole life. I thought I would have kids. I wanted kids. Not my whole life. When you're old enough to think, I want a baby. And I went through that grief very, very heavily, probably like 5 years ago, when it was, finite. I knew I wasn't ever going to have kids, and I felt it. I leaned into it, and I really feel like I'm on the other side of that. Almost, no, I am on the other side, but it's almost like I even have a little gratitude. Like I understand that I wasn't meant to be a mother, and that's really powerful healing. But I do understand that place of a woman who wanted kids and didn't have kids. And when this holiday's coming around, the tug on the heart and the feeling of being that outsider, not belonging and not good enough. We have a lot of celebration of our mothers and being a mother, and rightly so. I mean, none of us would be here without our mothers. So this talk isn't about to say, let's not honor and celebrate Mother's Day. I just want us to be present to those of us who are outside of the circle of celebration. So I know that journey. I haven't had kids, but I did, my niece died a few years back. Ooh, here we go. I knew I was going to cry at some point. Here it is. Okay. So, I haven't lost a child, but that was the closest I've come to that. And I'll tell you, so I have compassion and empathy for those of you who have lost a child, including through miscarriage. I think that miscarriage is a very disenfranchised grief that people can't quite understand completely. They may talk a good game about it or may try to support you the best they can. But the women I've talked to who've suffered a miscarriage will say there's a place in them that no one can really reach and understand, except for other women that have gone through that experience. So my heart is with you. I see you. I feel you. I'm with you. I just want to wrap my arms around you and say you're not alone. So I want to touch on a few of these, separate. They're separate, and yet the feeling of this holiday coming, I imagine, can feel quite similar. For me, for years and years, I just ducked out. I just didn't want to be around anyone on Mother's Day. I get a double whammy on Mother's Day often because my mom's birthday was May 7th, and oftentimes Mother's Day falls on her birthday. So double whammy day, I'm running for the hills, usually. I want to talk about the healing of grief, though, because on the other side of healing, we can see the gifts that are available when we're ready to open our heart again. No one can ever replace our mothers, but we can move forward on our journey and heal and get the need of mothering met in other ways. Let's say that. But no one can replace your mother. Now, there's also complicated grief, or a grief where your mom wasn't your favorite person and she didn't know how to be a mother to you, and then she dies, or there was a lot of wounding from her and then she dies. So there's the loss of not being mothered, and then there's all this unfinished business to work through that can be really triggered and amplified on Mother's Day. There's the women who are estranged from their mothers right now, that for whatever reason, the complication of the relationship, or the relationship was toxic and the daughter had to set a boundary. Very difficult on Mother's Day too. I have an elder sister who was like a mother to me. I love her. I will always love her and always have gratitude for her, but I'm estranged from her right now, for reasons I'm not going to get into, but there is a reason. And so, every holiday, not just Mother's Day, I feel a tug on my heart. I want to fix that. I want to make it better. And yet I'm reminded I can't. It's out of my hands. So I surrender it. So there's that estrangement too. And, so many layers. So I guess the thing I want to say is any way that we as women feel left outside of the circle of motherhood, on Mother's Day in particular, is just something to think about. So what I want to say is this is a time to be really present to yourself and to honor your feelings, honor what comes up, and allow space and time for that. Now, some of us with early loss, when 17, younger, or even in your 20s, when I'll just tell you my experience and then how I learned about it psychologically, what happens. Whatever stage of development we're in, we still need to meet that stage of development. Now, when I was 17 and my mom died, it was complicated because I wasn't living with her. My mom was also an alcoholic, so a little bit of estrangement, and a little bit, this is going to be, a relief for some of you to hear, something we don't often talk about. I'm going to say it. Oh, it was at 17 complicated because I was relieved in some ways. Ooh, yes, I was relieved that my alcoholic mother wasn't going to create shame in my life, create complications, create chaos anymore. And so I think that when I was 17, I think this is very common, I tucked it away and I moved on. I moved on through my 20s and my 30s. And I think I felt like when I was in my 30s, more of the real missing of a pure mothering, of being taught certain things, of being loved forward, of being encouraged and supported, and having my potential nurtured. Okay. So that felt really important to say. Now I'm going to say one other thing about, my mom died at 17. I often say my mom did her best mothering from heaven, or whatever you believe, because she started to come to me in my dreams from 17 until my 30s. And it was comforting and it was loving. And it was like I got to connect with the essence of my mother, not the wounded woman who was my mother, but my mother. So, there are many ways we can heal these wounded places, and it's essential that we do. It wasn't until I was in my 40s, late 40s, when I was working at hospice doing grief counseling, that all of my old grief from my mom really awakened. And our grief can be like that. It can be like dormant for a little while until we're ready to deal with it. Mother's Day can bring it full board ahead, especially if we feel like we're done. You're never done with your grief. There's a wonderful quote by Hope Edelman. I hope I'm saying her last name right. I think that's right. But this quote is beautiful. She says that when a mother dies, a daughter's mourning never completely ends. And that is true. No matter if the relationship was intact and healthy or difficult, the mourning never ends. Now it gets better, but it's still there. And like I said earlier, it's like the wound heals, but then we bump into someone or something, or a holiday like Mother's Day, and it opens up again. So that's okay, because when it opens again, and what is revealed in the space, the pain, the sorrow, the whatever, if you're willing to be present to it and honor your feelings, it can be healed in a deeper way. Okay. So my first, suggestion is to really honor your feelings, to really check in. How do I feel about this holiday coming up? And then when you acknowledge your feelings, what do I need? What will be best for you for Mother's Day? and to be able to honor yourself by meeting your needs, by asking for what you need, or telling people. I think it's important with grief, with adjustments, with healing. It's important to educate people about what we need, how to teach them how to be with us or not be with us if we need to be on our own, so that they understand, and that we gift them with the opportunity to teach and instruct people how to be around them when they're grieving, when they're going through a hard time, when life is difficult. Okay, so so just really connecting to what do you need, how are you feeling, and I wanted to say, oh, and here's the vital thing: learning to offer ourselves what we needed from our mothers, whether we're estranged from them, they're deceased, or they're in our lives and they're difficult. What do we need? You know, there's that mothering need. What we needed from our mothers is so essential that we must cultivate that in ourselves, and often we do. Like, this is a big theory that I'm putting forth in a book I'm writing, that we're cultivating the very thing we needed. I call myself the soul nurturer because I needed nurturing, and I love nurturing soul potential in others. And I'm still working on that with me because it was such an ingrained pattern of not receiving that myself. So I really want to invite you. What is the thing that you most needed from your mother, or still need, right? I don't care how old we are. As long as we have breath, there's a sort of a need for that mother connection. Think about it. We were connected so deeply to our mothers. You know, they were our lifelines. They brought us here. I'm pointing to my belly button, that umbilical cord connection, that energetic connection. So solid. And so we need to form that connection with ourselves so solid that we become our own best mothers, nurture ourselves, nurture our potential, or whatever else you needed from your mother. So here's I suggest that you have a plan of care for yourself for Mother's Day. What's going to be best for you? Honor yourself and celebrate yourself. And here's why too. This is now speaking to women who don't have children, that we do have a child. We have an inner child. We have an inner child. And when we say, I'm going to mother myself to the best of my ability, honor that, celebrate yourself, get yourself some flowers, celebrate, whether we birth a child or not. I think we have the capacity to mother. I do want to make a distinction. I completely honor and celebrate women who have birthed babies, because my goodness, that's a journey in itself, a whole rites of passage, who have birthed babies and have kids, right? Physical kids in their lives. That journey is extraordinary. And mothers who have had children and have children, you have cultivated some amazing gifts and strengths from your journey of motherhood. But that said, I want to say that every woman has the capacity of mothering and nurturing, okay? It may just look differently. Many of us have pets, and that natural nurturing comes out, or plants, or gardening, or, and again, the goal is to nurture ourselves. And so honor yourself as a mother, Now, what I want to get to is honoring your mother. Now, this may be tricky. Now, for those of you, your mom's died and you had a beautiful relationship, awesome. The grief is real and you're going to need to work with that. But you have more memories to hold you, and that's important to gather your memories, to be with your grief. I don't want to diminish the grief, but also having gratitude for all the memories, gratitude for what your mom taught you about being a woman, about being a mother. This is an essential piece for grief for all of us. I believe it's an integration process. The things we miss the most or valued the most in our mothers, how do we cultivate those skills, those qualities in ourselves, so that they do live through us, really? We have to watch out for those negative patterns too, because those will live through us too, but we have some choice about that. So it's really important, whether you had a good, solid relationship or not such a good relationship, or your mother's still alive and you're not talking to her, or, you've been very wounded by your mother. it's essential, and this is where you're going to go, it's going to be maybe a stretch, and pace yourself with this. Just consider it. You don't have to do anything with it. But I think that it's important to have gratitude for your mothers. For without them, we wouldn't be here. So, where can you stretch into? I'm thinking stretch marks, how funny, stretch. We're going to stretch to honor the stretch marks that our mothers had in birthing us into the world, and give thanks and find gratitude. And on this day of Mother's Day, you can both feel your grief, you can both feel your unfinished business, and you can feel your gratitude. And gratitude is a way that opens the door back to love and connection, okay? So the key is here, the more you are honest about what's going on. It took me many, many years to be honest and tell people, really. That's maybe why I talk about it a lot, because I skipped over it in my 20s and 30s. I don't think I ever talked about my mom dying. I just kind of did life, just went forward. And then, like, my house that wasn't built on very solid foundation just crumbled. And in that crumbling, and I felt all my grief. And you can't escape grief. You can't walk away from grief. At some point, you have to pay the piper. It's kind of, I love the saying that, grief is the debt we pay for love. Now, again, whether you had a good relationship with your mom or not, you still loved her. You could not love her. She was your first love. She was your first connection. She was the one who brought you here. Okay, so getting to that place of gratitude is going to be a lot easier if you first fill up with what you need, and if you first honor yourself. How are you feeling? What do you need? And how can you take care of yourself on Mother's Day? And, you may be surprised that in doing this preparatory work before Mother's Day arrives, you may feel so good that you may want to be around. Well, right now we're kind of in the sheltering in place mode, but you may want to reach out to people more than you would have in the past. But here's the point. Stay connected to yourself and what you need. Honor how you feel. You might want to journal. You might want to go through some old photos. You may want to, write a letter if the mother or the person that represented a mother to you, you're estranged from them, or there's some toxicity in the relationship right now. Write a letter that you don't give them, you don't send them, you get it out though, so you can be present and honoring, this is how I feel. And then shred that or burn it, and then come back to, now what do I need? And how can I stretch my heart womb and mother myself and love myself and nurture myself in the way that I always needed? That just feels good, doesn't it? All right. That's all I wanted to say. And I've been wanting to say this for years and years and years and years. I see you. I feel you. I'm with you. You're not alone. And let's outmother ourselves. I want to hear about how you're nurturing yourself, how you're taking care of yourself this Mother's Day, and how perhaps hearing this message helped you have a different experience, a different relationship with this concept of Mother's Day. Bless you all, and I just want to honor you. I know the journey you're on, and my heart is with you. Take good care of yourself, and I want to hear from you. Much love.